I have the opposite problem where I'm like, I feel like too low. Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 5 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Victorville Planning Commission meeting of May 10th, 2023. I'll call this meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Marsh?
Here.
Commissioner Messin?
Here.
Commissioner Thomas and Vice Chair Cook Askins are absent. Chair Kurth?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Next up, we will have the invocation and pledge of allegiance led to us by Commissioner Messin. If you'll please rise.
If you could all bow your head. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to gather here today. We ask that you can look over our commissioners who are not here today. We thank you for the staff that we have. May you look over them in their future endeavors, and we ask for a swift meeting full of meaningful and constructive dialogue. Thank you. Amen. If you can please place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, we now move into our general public comment period for items that are not on the tonight's agenda. Do we have any cards?
Not for general public comment.
Thank you. Then I will close the general public comment hearing. We have a set of minutes that we need to deal with, actually two sets for the meetings from March 8th, 2023 and April 12th, 2023.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a first by Commissioner Messin, a second by Commissioner Marsh. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Messin?
Yes.
Chair Kurth?
Yes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas and Vice Chair Cook Askins being absent.
Thank you. That moves us on to agenda item number 2 under public hearings. If the staff could give us their report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Commission, agenda item number 2 is case number PLAN 23-00008. It is a site plan with a conditional use permit and a categorical exemption to allow for the expansion of an existing car dealership, providing an approximately 14,000 square foot maintenance facility on a property zone C2 general commercial, as well as this requested suspension of the requirement to underground existing overhead utility lines on property located at 13721 Park Avenue. The applicant is requesting approval of this site plan and conditional use permit to allow for the expansion, modernization, and reconfiguration of an existing automobile sales facility that is currently vacant. The proposal includes an approximately 14,000 square foot building, which will include approximately 2,000 square feet of office and customer waiting area, approximately 10,000 square feet of service area with 18 vehicle service bays, and 14,000 square foot of a customer drop-off receiving canopy area. In addition to the proposed building, the site improvements include new parking areas and enhanced landscaping throughout. The proposal is accessory to an adjacent new vehicle sales facility located at 154 25 Dos Palmas Road. And in both this facility and that facility will be owned and operated by the same entity with the goal of enhancing their current service operations. The proposal is considered a non-conforming use, and this is due to the fact that automobile repair is not listed as a permitted or conditional use in the underlying C2 zone district. However, given that the properties are under common ownership and will be operated by the same entity, this expansion would be allowable pursuant to section 16-3.05030D of the City Municipal Code, which allows intensifications, alterations, and expansions of use, such as this proposal. Should the Commission concur with staff's assessment of this project, adequate findings have been included in the conditional use permit resolution to allow this expansion of a non-conforming use. Regarding the proposal itself, this will function as an extension of the adjacent car dealership as noted and provide various repair and maintenance services to customers. The applicant with this proposal intends to retain as many of the existing site improvements as possible through the repurposing of the site. However, the proposal does include parking area improvements, the addition of landscaping areas, new landscape material, ADA improvements, a new trash enclosure, and as well as a main building. As proposed, the proposal meets all typical Title 16 requirements, including site access, parking, landscaping, and a new trash enclosure. Additionally, the elevations are compliant with the city's commercial design guidelines. They complement the existing automobile dealership adjacent to the site and include elements such as metal siding, standing seam metal roof and awnings, split face block, and varied roof lines. As proposed, this proposal will blend well with the surrounding commercial and industrial businesses in the vicinity. As noted in the staff report, there is a proposal to suspend undergrounding utility lines. In this case, there is a single pole at the southeast portion of the site that from that location travels east over Interstate 15. So in this case, this would be a proposal that the Planning Commission could suspend. It is recommended by staff that it is suspended in as much as the suspension of this utility line to be located underground would not impact the public health, safety, and welfare in a negative way. And appropriate findings have also been included in the staff report, in the resolution that the Planning Commission concur with staff's assessment. Regarding the environmental review of this project, it is considered categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA section 15332 entitled Infill Development Projects, in as much as the site is less than 5 acres in size, complies with the general plan and zoning regulations, has no value for habitat for rare, endangered, threatened, or special status species, as it was previously developed, and can be served by all required utilities. That being said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take the following actions. Find the project categorically exempt under section 15332 of the California Environmental Quality Act, entitled Infill Development Projects, and adopt resolution number P-23-008, approving the conditional use permit portion, case number PLAN 23-00008, subject to the attached conditions of approval, and adopt resolution number P-23-009, approving the site plan portion of case number PLAN 23-00008, subject to the attached conditions of approval. Staff remains available for any questions you may have.
Thank you for that, and I'll open it up if the commission has any questions of staff.
Yeah, I have one question. As far as the parking, I know that in the illustration it shows upgraded, I guess I would assume customer parking. But is there going to be any allotment for employee park? Because right now, that space over there is used for employee parking, and my concern is the congestion that's on mainly on Dos Palmas, because there's employees that park along the side on both sides of the street, and there's some customers that park there too. but you also have vehicle drop-offs and deliveries on that same street. And so with the amount of traffic that does utilize Dos Palmas and Park Avenue, it's already pretty congested. So if you take away the employee parking and not allocate parking on another portion of their lot, new car lot or whatever, then I just think it's going to create more congestion on the, Dos Palmas and Park. So I was just wondering if they had made concessions to bring the employee parking somewhere else.
I'm not aware of any concessions in excess of what municipal code requires. The Victorville Municipal Code, for the purposes of the proposal, would require the parking to be provided for the employees and the customers visiting the site. In this case, I would share your concern that a lot of times with automobile repair facilities, you have not only the customers that are there, they're the ones that are waiting to pick up their vehicle. If the planning commission were so inclined, we could add a condition to the conditional use permit. In the past, there's been conditions that note something to the effect of should a parking deficiency occur on site causing complaints made to code enforcement, that item can be re-reviewed by the zoning administrator and our planning commission. So that is something, if the planning commission desires, we can definitely come up with some quick language here that may be applicable in that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think that that's important to, at least keep on the back burner in case it does, create a problem.
I don't have any questions, but I did just want to add to that. I also agree it would be good to have, especially because Park is more of a narrow street, and it would be just as a precaution. So I agree with that.
And just was just curious. You mentioned the site being automotive repair, which is technically non-conforming. Is that more appropriate according to our land use table? That would be C1 generally for automotive repair.
C1 is allowable as a conditional use in all the M zones, the heavy industrial zones, as well. It's actually a permitted use. So
Okay.
Sometimes the impacts, depending on the scale of the auto repair, if heavy repair kind of implies heavy equipment, even though in this case it's taking that technical expertise as noted in the definition in the staff report. C1 would definitely be appropriate for light auto repair, your tire shops, your places like that. But when you get into facilities that may be doing any kind of machining or having noise be a part of the operations, the reason the planning commission and the city has put those as permitted M2 is because the impacts are less to those types of warehouse uses that may be in that vicinity. And in C1 zones, there would have to be a more discretionary look at the surrounding uses and the potential impacts to neighbors.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't really remember because I know we worked on it quite a while ago in the past. That I thought I remembered that like auto repair was pushed more towards the C because you have customer cars, you have cars being worked on, and industrial usually has a lower parking ratio. But that may have been for auto body shops that we worked on. I can't really remember. Anyways, was just curious. And if there's no other questions, then I'll go ahead and I'll open up the public hearing. I see the applicant's representative here. Do you have any comments or questions? Welcome.
Good evening, Steve Richard here. P.O. Box 1512, Apple Valley, California 92307. I want to thank the planning commissioners for being out tonight, your valuable time. We don't see any exceptions to any of the conditions we've seen so far, and I'm here to answer any questions you all might have.
Any questions for the representative? Guess not. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
And I don't see anyone else here that would want to speak. No cards, I assume.
Only for Mr. Richards.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing on this agenda item, and we'll bring it back to the commission for any discussion or determination.
But I have a question. If we were to approve, if there was to be an approval or a recommendation to adopt the recommendations of staff, how would we work in that parking of the employee parking part?
Yeah.
Sure.
Um, I've prepared a quick condition that could be included for planning commission's review. Should a parking deficiency occur on site as evidenced by complaints to the city, the use shall be subject to review by the planning commission, unless an applicable resolution has been proposed by the applicant as determined by the zoning administrator. That in that case, it would essentially, if we receive a complaints and it's something sufficient to where the zoning administrator thinks that it needs to be addressed, he can seek administrative remedies first before bringing it to the planning commission. And if administrative remedies wouldn't resolve the issue, then that would be subject to re-review by the planning commission per the condition of approval.
And that's because in that area, street parking is technically allowed, right? We just can't have overflow from a site that has insufficient parking. Is that what we're getting at?
If a use is causing an overflow on on-site parking because of the unavailability of their on-site parking that's supposed to be reserved for customers and employees, or if the use and the operator is not letting their employees park on site and mandating that they park on the street, whereas the parking on site is supposed to be for both. Yes, it would cause a situation where it overflows in the street, becomes parking issues. Sometimes you run into site distance issues on corners. You run into cars parking illegally in some cases. At worst case, it'd be walking streets. So if something like that were to happen, then yes, we'd want to address that however we could.
So most likely in reality, if that issue did happen and if people complained, the city would probably remind the property owner or the business there that, hey, there's an issue, make sure that you park on site, because I'm sure that they can find parking. It's a big site. So that's probably the reality of what would come down.
Absolutely, and they'd have opportunities in as much as it's under the same ownership as the property to the south, they'd have opportunities to maintain overflow or maybe pickup area there and adjust operations accordingly.
Okay, well, I'm in agreement with what you guys have kind of brought up there.
Can you please speak into your microphone?
I'm sorry, I said I'm in agreement with what was brought up regarding the parking condition.
Okay, then with that, then I'll make a motion to adopt agenda item number 2 according to staff recommendations.
Is that in to include the additional recommendation just mentioned?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I second.
I have a first by Commissioner Marsh, a second by Commissioner Messin. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas and Vice Chair Cook Askins being absent.
Okay, that one is passed and completed. And so that moves us on to continued public hearing items. Item number 3 is a request for continuance. We've seen a couple of requests on this one at our last few meetings. Is there anything that staff would like to mention on this one?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kurth. Yes, item number 3, case PLAN 22-00025. It is an expansion to the American Organics Regional Composting Facility located at 20055 Shea Road. As you mentioned, this has been continued for several meetings. We did get an update from the applicant. The continuances have been in response to concerns brought up by the State Water Board. They expect, based on their update, to have their technical studies reviewed and finalized by July, and that will allow us to hear this complete item in August. So therefore, staff's recommending that the Planning Commission continue this item to their August 9th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and I will open up the public hearing for testimony on item number 3. Do we have anyone here to speak to us on 3, or do we have any cards?
We do not.
Okay, having none, then I'm going to leave the hearing item open, and I will make a motion to continue this item to the Planning Commission's meeting of August 9th, 2023.
A second?
I have a first by Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Messin. Roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas and Vice Chair Cook Askins being absent.
Thank you. That moves us on to new business, item number 4. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Kurth, fellow commissioners. Item number 4 is an administrative case from 2019. We're bringing this back to you based on a request to suspend the street improvements, master landscaping, and undergrounding of above ground utilities for an existing site. That was approved by the zoning administrator. This is located at 13313 Sabre Boulevard. Back in 2019, the city received an administrative proposal to take an existing building and retrofit it to allow the Victor Valley College High Desert Training Center and the second half of the building to be the office facility for Exquadrum. The building's approximately 70,000 square feet, and based on the improvements, our municipal code triggered the requirements to do master landscaping along the frontage, the undergrounding of utilities, and full street improvements. At the time, the property owner at the time, which was Sterling Investments, brought their concerns about doing these improvements before a certificate of occupancy, that they needed additional time. So they brought their concerns forward to the Planning Commission, requesting a postponement of those improvements. That postponement was granted. It required that within a year of occupancy that they do those improvements, and allowed like an additional 12 months beyond that initial year should they be making appropriate progress. Since then, the property owner, the property changed hands, and with the new owner asserting that they weren't aware of these requirements, and now requesting a suspension based on financial hardship. We're bringing this item back to you for consideration. In looking at the Planning Commission's policy that's been on the books since 2009, it would qualify for a suspension, given that it's an existing development. It's adjacent to other properties that are not fully improved, as noted in the site aerial. So therefore, staff's recommending that the Planning Commission allow for the suspension of all required street improvements, master landscaping, and the undergrounding of existing overhead utility lines on the subject property until the adjacent property to the west develops, which necessitating the completion of the required street frontage improvements. And with that, staff's available to answer any questions. This is unfortunately was a item that I think just got lost in translation with the new owner, and then staff's just been trying to work with the existing tenants since they're still on a temporary certificate of occupancy until this issue's resolved.
Okay. I have to admit, reading through the staff report on that with the timeline and how that went down, I had to read it a couple times, but I think I got the gist most of the way. I'm glad we're able to get to this now and get it worked out. Any questions of staff from the commissioners on this?
I had one. I noticed that in the letter that was submitted, it mentions that the owner is aware that the development will have to happen once that area is developed. If we suspend today, does that no longer apply to them once the area is developed, or would they still be obligated to develop their portion once the adjacent areas are also developed in the future?
Yeah, I take from that letter that was submitted that they're acknowledging that even with a suspension agreement, that it doesn't void their responsibility to do the improvements at some point in the future. And in this case, we're tying it to at the time that adjacent property develops, it's a vacant property to the west. So as that builds out, they'll do full street improvements, and it makes sense at that time to, finish out that street improvement along Sabre and have them do the rest of their landscaping and put the utilities underground.
Anything? Okay, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on agenda item number 4. Do we have any cards?
We do not.
Okay, anyone here to speak on 4? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on item number 4 and bring it back to the commission.
I move to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
I have a first by Commissioner Messin, a second by Commissioner Marsh. Roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas and Vice Chair Cook Askins being absent.
Okay, thank you. And so that pretty much wraps up our business items. Any presentations or reports from staff members?
I just want to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day this Sunday. And I learned something new that I didn't know. The Latin community actually celebrates Mother's Day today. So happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Hey, I just learned that today as well. Actually, there was someone in my office that said that. Really? Yeah, it's a thing. I said, okay, cool. Any comments, Commissioner Marsh?
No, I don't have anything. I just learned what Scott said just now. So that's good. Okay, but I don't have anything else.
Commissioner Messin?
Just looking forward to the Green Tree Extension Bridge grand opening, the ribbon cutting coming up. So that's gonna be all pretty exciting for everyone. And I know staff's worked a long time and previous council members and anyone involved. So really looking forward to attending that. That's it.
I have nothing except happy Mother's Day, Mr. Webb. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting.